A 68-year-old man received a hospital bill for over $12,000. The billing department refused to admit a mistake. When the case reached court, the judge had a serious problem with that.
Your Honor, I received a hospital bill for over $12,000. I was confused because I was never treated there, I don't live in that city, and I've never seen that doctor. I tried calling their billing office for weeks, but they kept telling me the bill was mine and sent it to collections anyway.
Your Honor, the billing system matched the patient name and birth year. The charge was processed automatically through insurance. Notices were mailed to the address on file. When payment wasn't received, the account followed standard legal procedure.
I've reviewed the medical records carefully. The actual patient has a different address, different insurance, and a different middle name. This defendant was billed in error. The claim is dismissed, all credit reporting corrected, and fees removed immediately.
A school bus driver stopped his route to help a lost child. The school district fired him for it. When the case reached court, the judge had a problem with that.
Your Honor, I saw a little boy standing alone near the intersection. He looked scared and confused. I pulled over, stayed on the bus, and called it in. I didn't leave my route for long. I just didn't feel right driving past a child who needed help.
Your Honor, district policy is clear. Drivers are not permitted to stop outside designated locations. Any deviation from the route creates liability concerns. He violated protocol. Termination was issued based on policy compliance.
This court does not punish good judgment. The driver did not abandon his duties. He acted to protect the child's safety. Policy exists to guide conduct, not replace common sense. The termination is overturned. The district is ordered to reinstate his position. Case closed.
A neighbor cut down a veteran's tree without permission. He claimed it was dangerous and had to come down. The veteran took the case to court. What the judge uncovered changed everything.
Your Honor, the tree leaned toward my fence. I was concerned it could fall during a storm. I believed it posed a safety risk. I acted to protect my property. I didn't think I needed permission.
Your Honor, that tree stood on my property for over 30 years. It provided shade to my home and my neighbors as well. I woke up one morning and it was gone. No warning, no notice. I served this country and I followed the law. I expected the same respect.
Survey shows the tree was entirely on the veteran's property. There was no emergency order and no immediate danger. Cutting it down without consent was unlawful. The defendant is ordered to pay full replacement value and damages. This court does not excuse taking the law into your own hands. Case closed.
Hospitals are legally overcharging over 400%, but this legal strategy can cut those bills by thousands. Request an itemized bill. Often hospitals will remove charges when you ask them to list them. Research what Medicare reimbursements are for the same services. This is a good baseline and starting point for where you should be at. Call the billing department, tell them, hey look, Medicare says the bill should be this much. I'm willing to pay 20% more today if we can get this done. This approach has helped patients reduce their medical bills by over 60%.
Upon checking that fucking bill, there was multiple items on there, including doctor's charges that I'd never fucking seen, including the doctors that were standing next to the other doctor having a conversation. They had charged over 2,000 fucking pesos each doctor just to stand there and say fucking nothing without my consent. Suddenly, there was other treatments on there that I believe that I did not ever fucking receive. It is not probable to spend that form of money at a hospital whilst laying there with no food, water, nor treatment for a period of over 4 fucking hours. And then I was stopped from leaving that hospital.
I'm illegally allowed to film under coercion and safety. You've got no choice. You don't tell me what to do. Are you illegally holding me against my will? Are you illegally holding me against my will? You are. Tell him the law. Tell him the law. Tell him the law. Tell him the law. No. No.
My rights were broken. The security stopped me from leaving because I refused to pay the extra 15,000 fucking pesos that they demanded from me. The total bill being 115,000 fucking pesos.
Ever wonder why the cost of healthcare is so damn expensive in the United States? Like how if you go to a hospital and you get a Band-Aid, it's $30. Let me show you why. Now this is actually my second pass at making this video because the last one I posted, well, you guys didn't really pick up what I was putting down. So let's explain it in a different way. To explain how hospitals set the prices for various medical procedures and services, I'm going to use this rather grotesque banana. And let's say that this banana represents a hospital service, such as an MRI, an X-ray, a doctor's visit, etc. So let's say you are the hospital and you're trying to figure out how much to sell this disgusting banana for, and you have a wide range of potential buyers. We'll call the first category of potential buyers the Lucille Bluths of the world. These are extremely bougie health insurance plans that will reimburse hospitals outrageous amounts of money for services.
I mean, it's one banana, Michael. What could it cost? $10?
Right, so in this analogy, they will pay $10 for a banana, even though this is clearly not worth $10. Hardly anybody has a Lucille Bluth level insurance. Now we're going to call the second category of buyers the Don Corleones of the world. These are the majority of health insurance plans, and they're not going to pay the absolutely absurd prices that Lucille Bluth is going to pay, because ultimately it would hurt their bottom line.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
Rather, they negotiate with hospitals on a much lower and much more reasonable price for reimbursement for the same services. So for example, instead of paying $10 for this gross banana, they may pay $2 per banana. It's still more than the average person would ever want to pay for this, but a lot of people probably still could pay it if push comes to shove. Now, the third category of buyers we'll call the Bernie Sanders of the world, and this would be Medicare and Medicaid. Good old Bernie wants to give healthcare to as many low-income working class families as they possibly can, but unfortunately, Bernie doesn't have very deep pockets because the government has decided to invest its funds elsewhere.
I am once again asking for your financial support.
So Bernie can only pay 1 penny for this banana. So here's the conundrum for hospitals. They have to work with Bernie, but it's also really hard to continue producing bananas when you're only getting paid 1 penny for one of these bad boys. What they're getting from Don Corleone is probably enough, but not enough when you combine that with what they're getting from Bernie. And on top of that, Don Corleone is a mob boss who can't be trusted. So while these insurance companies have agreed to pay $2 for one of these bananas, they frequently renege on that process after the hospital has already given them the banana, which leaves the hospital in the lurch. Between the fact that Bernie Sanders is cash poor and Don Corleone is not a trustworthy person to work with, in order to have enough revenue to stay afloat and continue providing services, they have to take advantage of the fact that Lucille Bluth thinks that a banana is worth $10. Even though that's ridiculous, and everybody knows that's ridiculous. Which means it's in their best interest to sell this for $10 so that Lucille Bluth will actually pay $10. Now someone might say, well, why don't we just charge the Lucille Bluth $10 and everybody else a lower rate? And the reason why you can't do that is because it's illegal. You can't set multiple prices for the same service. So if you were going to set the price of this banana at $2, which is a little bit more reasonable, and then you would get the maximum amount of revenue from the majority of insurance policies, that would be the price that Lucille Bluth pays too. Even though she's willing to go up to $10, she's not going to cough up the extra $8 out of the goodness of her heart. So what the hospital decides to do is they decide to set the price of bananas at $10. Even though there's not very many Lucille Bluths out in the world, it's in their best interest to get as much money from them as they can whenever the opportunity arises. Now the Don Corleones of the world are still only paying $2 because they negotiated that price. And Bernie Sanders is also only paying 1 penny for this because Bernie Sanders negotiated this price. But the problem is that the person who's paying for these services in cash because they either don't have insurance or insurance denied their claim, well, they're stuck paying the absolutely ridiculous price of $10 per banana. Because, as I mentioned, it is illegal for the hospital to charge a different cash price. Some people in the comment section of my last video heard this explanation and said, oh, well, it's the hospitals and providers who are greedy because they're overcharging. It's not the insurance company's fault. No. Hospitals function with razor-thin margins. They have to do this to survive. It is the product of a broken system. Here's the actual scam. Hospitals and providers spend exorbitant amounts of time and resources in order to chase down Don Corleone because he's not paying what he promised. And on top of that, if somebody gets an insurance denial for a service that they've already received from a hospital, their next course of action is to apply for financial aid through the hospital. And in situations like this, it is not uncommon for a hospital to forgive part of, if not all of, that hospital bill. And so they are losing a lot of revenue that they should have received from the insurance company. In the state of Maine where I live, the largest hospital network in the state threatened to stop accepting Anthem, which is one of the big insurers in the area, because they were struggling with this so much that it was bankrupting them. The second part of the scam is that these insurance companies have these Lucille Bluth plans, even though very few people have them, so that hospitals have no choice but to set the cost of services higher. What this does is it makes it impossible for individuals to pay for medical services out of pocket, thereby making insurance necessary. Don't get me wrong, hospitals are not all innocent bystanders in this situation. There certainly are for-profit hospitals that do shady business practices too, but trying to pin escalating service costs on hospitals is absolutely not fair. This is just one of the many reasons why insurance companies are evil and are bankrupting this country.
I genuinely don't understand hospital billing. I got my ganglion cyst removed in November of 2023. Before I got the surgery, I was going back and forth with the hospital and the insurance company trying to figure out how much it was going to cost. I figured out that it was going to be about $1,500 to $2,000. And of course they give you the disclaimer that, it's give or take, it can always change, but rough estimate. The day I go in for my surgery, at the check-in desk, they send me to a kiosk that is for payment. I go onto the payment kiosk and it's asking me if I would like to pay $6,000 right now for the surgery. No, because I thought it was going to be $1,500 to $2,000. So there's a skip for later option. So I click that. About a month after the surgery, I see that the claim has gone through on my insurance and the hospital has billed the insurance $13,000. And so I just knew that I had to wait for the insurance to process for my portion. A few months later, I get a bill from the hospital for $9,000. I call the hospital. They are basically blaming the insurance company, saying we ran it through insurance and that's what they covered. And I was like, no. Like, we talked about this before and you guys said it was going to be roughly $2,000. $2,000 and $9,000, pretty big difference. So I call the insurance company and they're basically blaming the hospital, saying that the hospital didn't send some prerequisite documents that was needed to be able to fully cover the surgery. And at that point, I'm like, well, that sounds like beef between you guys and not me. So the insurance company is basically telling me that, I just need to wait until they hash it out and to not pay the $9,000, which obviously I'm not interested in paying. For some reason, the hospital and the insurance company couldn't figure it out, and the hospital needed me to send an explanation of benefits, so I did. I finally got a bill last week for $1,700, which is great because that's what I thought I was expecting to pay. I just can't believe that it took almost a year for them to hash that out. So then I called the billing department to see if I can break up the payments into a payment plan because holidays are coming up and I wasn't really budgeting for $1,700 to come out because I didn't know when to budget for it because I didn't know when it was coming. I have my chart so I could pay it online for $1,700. And then the lady tells me before I set up the payment plan, she's like, hey, by the way, we're running a special this month and this month only. And if you pay in full before the end of the month, you'll get 20% off. I'm sorry, I didn't know hospitals did Black Friday deals. So she said if I pay in full now, I would pay $1,400 instead of, it was almost $1,800. And then I'm like, well, I guess I might as well take advantage of the deal. So I paid it and all is well, but I'm just so confused with the whole process. Like, why did the kiosk originally say $6,000 when the hospital billed the insurance company $13,000, who then tried to bill me for $9,000, which was only really supposed to be $1,800, and then I got a 20% discount because I called them? I don't understand.
That is not a typo. Studies show that 8 out of 10 hospital bills contain at least one error, and it's almost never in your favor. You could be charged for services you never received, billed twice for the same procedure, or upcoded for a more expensive treatment. Never pay a hospital bill without getting a fully itemized copy first and reviewing every single line item.
This medical billing error shows how hospitals will literally charge you for anything. A couple just had their first baby and got hit with the most ridiculous hospital bill you've ever seen. Everything seemed normal at first. Standard delivery charges, nursery fees, the usual newborn stuff. Then they got to line item 47 on a 12-page bill. Circumcision procedure, $850. Here's the problem. Their baby was a girl. The hospital literally charged them for circumcising their daughter. When they called to dispute it, the billing department told them they needed to prove the procedure didn't happen. Think about that for a second. They had to prove their baby girl wasn't circumcised. The customer service rep actually asked if they had photos to verify. After 3 weeks of phone calls and submitting their daughter's medical records twice, they finally got someone with common sense. The supervisor looked at the file and said, quote, "This happens more than you'd think. Apparently, the hospital uses automated billing codes, and someone clicked the wrong box during data entry. The charge was removed, but they had to fight for almost a month to not pay for a medical procedure that's literally impossible for their child."
I almost had a heart attack when I saw how much the hospital was charging me for some simple routine exams. The amount was so ridiculous that I started looking into where those charges were coming from. The good thing is I found a website called BillDefendAI.com. It's a site where you can upload your medical bill, and using artificial intelligence, it analyzes it and tells you exactly what overcharges they are hitting you with. The best part about the platform is that it immediately generates a dispute letter so you can fight for that money you're losing. It's very easy to find. Just look up BillDefendAI.com.
Apparently, 80% of medical bills have some types of errors in them. And honestly, that's pretty insane to think about because most people can't afford to just be throwing money away these days. But they still end up paying the bill without any questions. But I found this really interesting tool I wanted to share with y'all. It's called August AI. And I genuinely think it could help a lot of people out there. You can upload your medical bill. It breaks everything down line by line in plain English. It checks for things like duplicate charges, weird pricing, coding issues, and it even compares what you were charged versus what you probably should have owed. One thing that really caught my attention though is it can even help draft a dispute email for flagged charges too. I feel like this is one of those things everybody should know about before paying a massive hospital bill, not after, especially with how expensive healthcare has gotten now.
If you get medical bills in the mail, like let's say you went to the ER, or maybe not even the ER, maybe just like the walk-in or whatever, and your insurance is supposed to cover it, or most of it, like you're probably gonna get a bill for like $200 or something. Okay, whatever. But then you do get that bill like 4 months later, and it's like $2,000. You're like, what?
Yeah.
And they just like added all these extra costs. I told my sister, I was like, don't pay it.
Yeah.
Like, here's what's gonna happen. A couple months from now, they're gonna send that shit to collections. It's no longer real.
Yeah.
Especially with medical debt.
What is collections?
So, like, it's a third party that will,
Okay.
let's say you owe the hospital, you owe Aurora $2,000.
Yeah.
Aurora knows at a certain point, after a certain date, they're like, okay, the chances of you ever paying that back drop so low.
Yeah.
That they're like, okay, they're probably not going to pay it back. So what I'll do is I'll sell this debt to this debt collector for, so you owed $2,000, they'll probably sell to them for $1,500.
Okay.
And then they're going to try to get the $2,000 out of you.
Okay, and then they make the profit.
They make the $500.
They make the $500. Okay.
But once, especially if that debt is transferred without your knowledge, I believe there's like a legal loophole that you no longer legally have to pay that anymore.
Really?
Yeah. So what they try to get you those on intimidation, or like they serve you papers, or like they try to call you a bunch, and if they get you, they're like, "Oh, is this Aiden?" And you're like, "Yes, Aiden." Well, consider yourself, sir. Like you owe blank, blank, blank. Da, 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 da.
I think that's so funny that they consider yourself served. Like it's like an MTV show in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Like, you got served. You're in medical debt.
A local woman was insured for the medical visit, so she says she didn't understand why the healthcare provider was asking her to pay a bill from 5 years ago. The patient turned to me and I got answers and results. Mary Ann Posinger says she's been battling this $1,152 bill for years. It all started when she visited this Northwestern Medicine satellite clinic for a scan in Bloomingdale in December of 2021.
I disregarded that first bill because it was $0.
Right.
And then the following month, I got another bill for $1,152.
She ended up getting that bill in November of 2023, so she called to complain. She thought she had cleared the issue up, explaining that she was 100% covered by insurance.
Almost 17 months later, I got another bill for $1,152.
She says despite her pleas to Northwestern Medicine's billing department, she was sent to collections and was getting calls to pay up. So she called the I-team.
It's very frustrating because it's taken a lot of my time out for somebody that should have been doing their job a long time ago.
Her insurance company sent her this letter explaining that they were billed by Northwestern too late, according to the insurer's policy. So the insurer says you shouldn't have to pay.
Correct.
And they don't want to pay either.
Correct.
So what's going on? Posinger also had a secondary insurer at the time, and somehow that insurer was mistakenly billed, paid the claim, and then demanded the money back. Northwestern Medicine said unfortunately the charges were initially billed to the wrong insurer. By the time the error was identified and the claim was submitted to the correct insurer, it exceeded their timely filing limit and was subsequently denied.
I just want it off my record.
After the I-team got involved, Northwestern Medicine reviewed the account, determined the patient was not at fault, and the balance was adjusted to zero.
It was their fault, and it now since has been cleared off my account.
So you don't owe the money anymore?
That's what they say, and I thank you so much for clearing this up because it was a nightmare for the longest time.
Every situation is different, but overall, if you're battling a medical bill dispute, ask for an itemized bill to review. Then compare the bill to your insurance explanation of benefits. Don't pay while a dispute is active. Let the provider know in writing that the bill is being disputed.
Rich people always negotiate their medical bills, and you should start doing so too. I'm Vivian, your rich BFF, and your favorite Wall Street girlie who's going to give you first-hand advice on how to do so. 1. Ask for an itemized medical bill. 80% of medical bills have errors, so you want to make sure you weren't double charged or billed for something you didn't get. 2. Call, do not email, looking at you millennials, and politely ask questions that force the provider to tell you what waivers, discounts, and relief plans are available, such as, which of these fees can be waived? I know many hospitals have medical bill relief plans and charity care. Can you tell me about yours? What discounts do you offer for financial hardship? 3. Mention that you'd love to be able to pay the bill off in full, but would only be able to do so if some of the fees were waived. This helps to incentivize an administrator to cut you a break if your earlier questions didn't work. And 4, keep in mind that most medical practices will work with patients to set up monthly payment plans without interest in which you pay what you can until the bill is paid off. These are some easy ways to negotiate your medical bills. Don't just ignore them. They'll go to collections and it'll ruin your credit score.
When you get a bill from a hospital and you're having to pay out of pocket, you want a full itemized bill, because you'll find a lot of things on there that had nothing to do with you, things that were never done to you or for you, and you're being billed for them. You challenge those bills because, remember, you worked hard for your money. You don't want to pay it to somebody you don't actually owe.